Hey, 8th graders. It's another Midnight McDermott lesson. My hair is looking real greasy. Haven't had time to shower. Been momming. Hashtag I mom so hard. And teaching and answering messages and doing Google Meets. And this is today's lesson for y'all. We're just going to recap the Landlady. And we're going to talk a little bit about building suspense, what makes something suspenseful. And then you're going to read your second model story called The Telltale Heart by the very famous Edgar Allan Poe. So first of all, I just wanted to show you some stuff that I found about being poisoned and how common it was for especially women to poison their husbands, and some of them did even worse. Oof. The first one is a case called Adelaide Bartlett. It's in this house, or in this box right here. This house. What? This box right here. One of the most celebrated cases was that of Adelaide Bartlett. Adelaide Bartlett's husband, Edwin, was the one who succumbed to the poison. In his case, chloroform. Adelaide's trial, which is like what they put in, and they try to make people pass out, but it can kill them. Like you put it on a rag, kind of. Adelaide's trial has gone down in history as one of the most baffling. Although poor Edwin's post-mortem revealed a large amount of liquid chloroform in his stomach, there was no trace in his mouth or throat. The central part of Adelaide's defense in her trial was that the mystery of how that chloroform got into his stomach without going into his mouth. It would have caused a lot of vomiting, and if it had been poured down his throat while he was unconscious, it would have gone into his lungs, and there was nothing in his lungs. It was only in his stomach, and she was acquitted. And after she was acquitted, so she totally got off, the Sir James Paget of St. Bartholomew's Hospital said, now that it's all over, she should tell us how she did it, just so scientists can know. Inquiring minds want to know. This lady, Madeline Smith, was 21 years old, and she was having an affair with this clerk, Emile L'Anglais, and she had written him some very passionate, maybe scandalous letters as they were courting, and eventually her dad was like, you need to marry this other guy, and so she tried to get the letters back from Emile, and he was like, no way. And so she was like, well, I'm gonna kill you then. So she poisoned him with arsenic in a cup of hot cocoa. He drank it down and he died. And at the trial, she was so pretty and very the people really admired her, and they thought, oh, she can't be guilty. So they just said, it was not proven that she did it, and she got off. This one is horrendous. Mary Ann Cotton poisoned 4 husbands and 8 children with arsenic. What? I can't even with her. 4 husbands, and she just kept collecting the insurance and running with it. And yeah, here's a picture of her. How she kept getting husbands, I'll never know. All right, and there's some other things. So this lady used strychnine poisoning. So if you want to read more, it took place in Victorian England, where we can kind of suppose maybe there were tales of this, right, when Roald Dahl was growing up. So I want you to take out your lit packets, and I want you to write this down where it says foreshadowing. So foreshadowing is when the author leaves hints or clues in the text, and it helps the reader kind of predict what is going to happen. It creates a little bit of suspense, right? Because the readers think this is going to happen or something's going to happen. And it also compels people to read on, right? Or to keep watching the show or the movie or whatever it is because they want to see what happens. So what I want you to do right now, if you are at home, I want you to stop the video right here. Just press pause. And then I want you to take 5 or 10 minutes and go back to commonlit.org and look at the Landlady again. And in your English notebook, you can put it on the same page as your jots from Tuesday. I want you to find any foreshadowing that you see that might indicate that the landlady is not this kind old lady who runs a bed and breakfast. So stop the video right now. You can press the timer, the 10-minute timer, and look back into the story, The Landlady, and see, and maybe at your jots, maybe some of your jots might kind of be about this already, so you can take a look at your jots. But you can see I found 5 instances in The Landlady of foreshadowing, and let's see how many you come up with. Okay, pause it right now. Did you pause it? Okay, good. 10 minutes. Go look for it. Foreshadowing. Oh, hi! You're back. Let's take a look at how this works, okay? So first of all, we see, and now a queer thing happened to him. He was in the act of stepping back and turning away from the window when when all at once his eye was caught and held the most peculiar manner by the small notice that was there. So he was going to look away from the window, and something was there. There was something there, okay? So the words queer and peculiar indicate that something is happening beyond Billy's control, and he can't quite figure out what it is, but something is going to happen. The second example is, and we don't want to go breaking any laws at this stage of in the proceedings, do we? And we're all wondering, what does she mean by this stage in the proceedings? What is she talking about, right? Like, obviously she's already got him in the bed and breakfast, and she's not going to let him go. The third one that I found was his landlady wasn't there, but the fire was glowing in the hearth, and the little dachshund was sleeping soundly in front of it. This part was kind of creepy, right? Okay, and then he figures out that the dachshund, was stuffed. Yeah. The next one is now and again he caught a whiff of a peculiar smell that emanated directly from her person, and he wasn't quite sure what it reminded him of. Pickled walnuts, new leather, corridors of a hospital, and when we think about things being preserved, right, and stuffed, we think about things being pickled, right, because anything that's pickled lasts a long time. The last one, I don't know if you can see it, but is the talk that the tea tasted like bitter almonds and he didn't care for it. And if you know anything about poisoning, you will know that, and you can see there at the bottom, the tea is poisoned and bitter almonds is arsenic. I learned that from a forensic files. I know, weird, right? All right, so let's look at the next one here. I want to talk a little bit about the magical powers too, because there were some things that might have indicated to us that the landlady had magic powers, right? And so I found 2 examples here, and now a queer thing happened to him, and we kind of talked about this as being foreshadowing. He was in the act of stepping back and turning away from the window when all at once his eye was caught and held in the most peculiar manner by the small notice that was there. Bed and breakfast, it said. Bed and breakfast, bed and breakfast, bed and breakfast. Each word was like a large black eye staring at him through the glass, holding him, compelling him, forcing him to stay where he was and not to walk away from that house. And the next thing he knew, he was actually moving from across from the window to the front door of the house, climbing the steps that led up to it and reaching for the bell. So did anyone else think, creepy? Okay. Yeah, it is creepy. And, we know that Roald Dahl, as an author, loved kind of magical things, right? And created these kind of alternate worlds where, you know, like in Matilda, she had these magical powers, right? So we're kind of thinking like this is kind of a witch, right? Like Scary Halloween. There was some power that she had over him. And then this last one, he pressed the bell, right? So this is right after he's reaching for the doorbell. He pressed the bell far away in a back room. He heard it ringing. And then it must have been at once because he hadn't even had time to take his finger from the bell button. The door swung open and a woman was standing there. I saw the notice in the window, he said, holding himself back. Yes, I know. What? You know? How? I was wondering about a room. It's all ready for you, my dear, she said. She had a round pink face and very gentle blue eyes. Thank you, Billy said. Thank you ever so much. He noticed that the bedspread had been taken off the bed and that the bedclothes had neatly been turned back on one side, all ready for someone to get in. I'm so glad you appeared, she said, looking earnestly into his face. I was beginning to get worried. Like she was expecting him, like she knew he was coming. Right? Creepy. All right. So we're going to kind of switch gears, right? And we're going to now think about what we learned about foreshadowing and apply them to the Telltale Heart. Okay. So, let's take a look at this, and we're going to talk a little bit about suspense. Okay, so what exactly is suspense? Suspense is when the author creates a feeling of anticipation, and you as a reader or a viewer or a listener feel compelled to keep reading. So suspense doesn't always have to be scary, right? Like, I know some of my favorite TV shows, there is the suspense of like, is she going to fall in love with him? Are they finally going to get together, right? There's so, like when you watch Friends, are Ross and Rachel going to get together, right? And there's all this like, you want to keep watching because you want to know what happens. Suspense, of course, can also be creepy. And a lot of times we think of suspense building, like music will get really scary, right? In the TV shows that we're watching. Authors don't have music, so they have to create suspense with the words that they're putting on the page. So there are 3 ways that we're going to talk about suspense in this story. The first is that authors create characters, unique characters that maybe have some quirks, right? And they can create suspense through the things that their characters do, the things their characters say, the way that other people react to the characters, right? We talked about this like on Tuesday, whenever we had class, I don't know. And so authors create characters and relationships between the characters that create suspense. The second thing that you're going to see, especially in the Telltale Heart, is called dramatic irony. So this, I believe, is a term in your literary terms packet as well. And if you want to write it down, dramatic irony is when the audience knows something that characters in the book do not, or characters in the movie do not. Okay. We might be privy to see something or to know something. A character's hiding in the closet, right? We see a weird camera angle, or we see something moving in the background and we know something's back there, right? But the person who is the actress in the movie has no idea, right? So we know something she doesn't. That's dramatic irony, and that creates really, really dramatic suspense, right? So dramatic irony, when the audience knows something the characters don't, and it's a great way to create suspense. It can also be like, in love stories, when you know that a character is in love with this person, right? But he doesn't seem to know that at all because he has no clue. Like, come on, man. And the third way that writers create suspense is through the setting and the mood. So the setting obviously is where the story takes place. And this story, The Telltale Heart, is fantastic for setting and mood. Think about keeping track of the man's bedroom, okay? And all the things that go into creating the setting and painting that picture in the reader's heads. So I want you, as you are reading this today, to jot about the characters, jot when you get a hint or a clue of dramatic irony, right? Where you find out something or you figure out something that other characters don't know. And then talk about the setting and the mood, how Edgar Allan Poe as an author creates this creepy, suspenseful setting for his story. So where are you finding them in the text? How do they add to suspense? So jot them and then maybe just write some notes to help you think about that as you keep going. So on the anchor chart in the lesson, you will see the commonlit.org website, so you can click there and you can log in, and you should see that Telltale Heart is assigned for you. Just like last week, you'll have to answer those Q questions. They're just quick multiple choice questions to make sure you know what you're doing and to see. And that's how I see that you've read the whole thing too. So some of you didn't read all of the Landlady, and I know it. So do your common lit questions as you go, jotting about characters, dramatic irony, and setting. You are going to love this story. It's totally creepy. All right, up you go. Bye.